Welcome to Lesson 4. In this lesson, I'm going to be talking about the 4 warning signals. Now, I've already spoken about the emotional warning signal, but I'm going to re-explain that and just explain to you what all 4 warning signals are and how they work together. So the warning signals, why do I say warning signals? Warning signals are attached to thoughts and are sent up from the non-conscious mind through the subconscious to the conscious mind. So knowing about the 4 warning signals is so helpful in helping you to use your mind to manage things like anxiety and depression. Anxiety and depression are emotional warning signals, which is one of the 4. Okay, so let me explain each of them, and then it'll make so much sense. So the 4 different types of warning signals are emotional warning signals, like anxiety and depression, behavioral warning signals, like what you say and what you do, bodily sensation or physical warning signals, how your body responds, and then perspective warning signals, how you're looking at life, your mindset, your attitude. These 4 always work together. They're never separated. Emotions don't stand alone, but the way that emotions are spoken about just in the general media and in the world of psychology and psychiatry, you would think that they were these things that were totally on their own. But emotions never live alone, and emotion is always linked to a behavior, and emotions and behaviors are always linked to the response in your body. And those 3 are always linked to the general perspective that they generate. So when we talk about a warning signal, we want to look at all 4. You can never look at any one of them in isolation. So if we look at them in a little bit more detail, let's analyze each one. So the first one, let's talk a little bit more about emotional warning signals. First of all, emotions are not problems. There's no bad emotion. They are warning signals telling you the because of behind the thought that they're attached to. So think of the thought that I spoke about in lesson 2. Here's the healthy thought and here's the toxic one. So the emotional warning signals coming from this one would be nice ones like joy and happiness and excitement and enthusiasm, that kind of thing. The ones coming from this one would be maybe the anxiety, the depression, the frustration, the irritation, that kind of thing. Neither of those are bad. We must never look at an emotion as being bad. Look at an emotion as a warning signal telling you something. Now, what is this warning you about? Warning, when you think of the word warning, we think it's something bad. Warning isn't. It's telling you to pay attention. So think of the word warning and warning signals as your non-conscious mind trying to catch your attention. So when it's when it's a joy, happiness, excitement, peace, whatever, when it's one of those kind of warning signals, you want to pay attention because you want to grow those to unmask your resilience. I mentioned this in the last lesson too. When we all have natural resilience, we aren't fragile. We're actually pretty strong. But what we can do with mismanagement of our mind is we can mask of a resilience. So when we pay attention to the nice warning signals that make you feel good, joy, excitement, etc., then we actually enhance and unmask our resilience. And when you practice unmasking resilience, you then are more resilient. Simple. And what does that mean? It means when the inevitable issues of life hit you, the big, the small, the good, the bad, the ugly, you are that much quicker at being able to manage your responses. It doesn't mean that you're not going to have the pain and the anxiety and all that kind of thing that's associated with adverse circumstances, but your ability to manage them, to get through them, is because of the unmasked resilience, is going to be that much stronger. So the day-to-day struggles of life become that much more manageable, and you have that much more peace. But that's if you choose to actually develop and pay attention to the good, to the ones that feel nice as well as the ones that don't feel nice. They both are fantastic at telling you something. So we have warning signals to tell us the because of. This because of is something great that happened and you want to keep thinking about that and really, grow that. This because of is something that's disrupting your functioning and you want to deconstruct and reconstruct that. So we don't have to become suspicious of our emotions in our current model of mental health, and we'll be talking about this in lesson 5 in more depth. In the current model of mental health, we are almost encouraged to become suspicious of our warning signals. And not almost, we actually are. So as soon as you have something like anxiety and depression, then you think there's something wrong with you and you have some kind of clinical problem, mental illness. And that's not actually science at all. There's no evidence base for that. So rather shift this perspective. This is so much more hopeful, and see these, whatever emotion you have, as one of the 4 warning signals, and it's telling you something. This one you want to grow, this one you want to deconstruct. They're not from a chemical imbalance either. Emotional warning signals, if you have depression or anxiety, that's not coming from an emotional imbalance in the brain. There's no evidential base for that. Even though 85 to 90% of people globally think that if they have depression, they have a chemical imbalance in the brain. But that's not actually what's causing the problem. That's actually you can get a chemical imbalance mixed with a lot of other different things in your brain as the result of. The cause is in what's going on in your environment. And that then is encapsulated or caught or structured into the thought. So what we want to do is use the warning signals to find the thought, to deconstruct, and move away from thinking that there's something wrong with you or your brain or your genes. That's not the issue. The issue is what's going on in your life. What's the narrative? What's the story? Which is contained within these. And the emotional warning signals are telling us part of that story. So the behavioral warning signals are, what are you saying and doing? Now remember, emotions don't live alone. Emotions always work with the other 3. So as soon as you've identified your emotions, you need to look at your behaviors. And so the behaviors are, what are you saying? What are you doing? For example, maybe eating more food. Maybe you're sleeping less. Maybe you're yelling at your family more. Maybe you're skipping getting together with people. Maybe you're more irritable. Maybe you're more reactive. Maybe you're speaking in a different way, or in a way that's different to how you were speaking before. Maybe you're withdrawing. What are you saying? What are you doing as you identify the emotional warning signal? Because they pair up together. That emotion is going to be linked to a behavior. So what we're doing here is we're becoming like thought detectives with these warning signals. We're looking at these clues that are then taking us to the thought. So the warning signals are coming out from the unconscious and are attached to the thought. So if I use my multiple perspective advantage, which you learned about in the last session, and I observe, what are my emotions? What are my behaviors? I am getting data and evidence that are taking me to the thought. And as I find the thought, that's when I can do the deconstruction and reconstruction, which we'll learn about in the next lessons. Okay, so the behavior warning signal is then, what are you saying and what are you doing? So now, once you've identified the emotional warning signals and the behavioral, we then need to look at our physical warning signals. Because if you recall from the first lesson, I spoke about how when your mind takes the experiences of life and puts them into your brain, and they become these physical structural changes inside of your brain, then your brain sends a message to every cell of your body, and a duplicate of that memory inside the brain is also stored in every single cell of your body. So if you think of it, your body embodies the memory too, and you have 37 to 100 trillion cells. So that means you actually have 37 to 100 trillion thoughts built of memories inside of every single experience. Like listening to me now, it's not just one thing. It is 37 to 100 trillion representations in your brain and your body. When you think of it like that, it just is amazing how we are structured in our psychoneurobiology. Okay, so this is why we can't ignore the physical warning signals. So once you've looked at the emotional, and let's give you an example. Let's say that the emotional warning signals you noticed were depression and anxiety. And let's say then you look at your behavioral, and let's say your behavioral are more irritable, more reactive, not sleeping. So there's 3 examples of what you're saying and doing. Then you're going to look at your physical. How is your body responding? Maybe you're getting heart palpitations. Maybe you're waking up at night with heart pain. Maybe you have GI symptoms. Maybe you have indigestion, heart palpitations, shallow breathing. So you're going to try and link the emotion to the behaviors to the physical. So you start getting a pattern. So now let's look at the perspective warning signal. So this would be a healthy perspective. And you want to definitely grow this and pay attention to this because it will activate resilience, like I mentioned. This would be a toxic perspective. And this at its core is going to have some kind of toxic issue at the root. And so an example of a toxic perspective could be something like life sucks, or I can't do this, or it's overwhelming, or if I keep my boundaries, I'll lose my family, or I'm failing as a parent because my child's battling. It is a view that is influencing and making things kind of worse. It can keep you stuck and in that rabbit hole of going round and round and round. And that's when the intrusive thought, instead of you controlling the intrusive thought is controlling you. So let's say now here's the intrusive thought, and we spoke about this in the second lesson. Here's the intrusive thought with all whatever it is, and its signals are the depression and anxiety, and the physical symptoms are the pain in the gut or the heart palpitations, and the behavior are withdrawing or irritable, and the perspective is life sucks, something like that. If you don't manage those, it just gets worse and worse, and the volcano explodes. Remember in lesson 2, I showed you the volcano. That volcano, if you don't manage it, it gets bigger and bigger. You see, this is energy. So is this. Whatever you think about the most will keep growing. So our warning signals tell us to not keep thinking about this and keep thinking about this. And if I don't stop thinking about this, it's going to grow bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's just going to become this overwhelming chronic stressor. It goes from an acute, which is an instant, into a chronic, which is over long term. And these are the things that wear us down. And we can get into these patterns of having chronic triggers, chronic stressors from multiple reasons. Bad habits that we've developed, big traumas, small traumas, a combination of those. The point is, wherever they came from, whatever the root and origin story is, we use our warning signals to find these. Your brain and mind and body, the psychoneurobiology, is a very systems-driven system. Your mind, brain, and body love organized processes and systems. And so the neurocycle, which we're going to be learning about in the next couple of lessons as well, and all these techniques I'm giving you are systems driven. They're organized systems that are helping you use the multiple perspective advantage to pay attention to the warning signals that the non-conscious mind is sent up through the subconscious into the conscious mind. And if it's good, grow it. And if it's bad, don't push it back in the non-conscious. Don't just shove it back down, because if you push it back down and think, okay, I can't deal with this, I'm going to suppress it, it goes back stronger than before. And then your non-conscious mind will look after you. It will sweep through, find this, it's now bigger, send it through. And guess what? The emotional warning signals, the physical warning signals, the behavioral warning signals, and the perspective warning signals will get louder and more amplified. And that's not you getting sicker. That is your non-conscious protecting you and saying, pay attention. Don't shove it back down. Pay attention. You need to do some work on this. And that's when you need to take the time to do something like the neurocycle, which I promise you're going to learn about soon. So your warning signals will bring up the toxic and the healthy. And you want to focus on whatever the warning signals are telling you, because those are messages from the non-conscious mind through the messages of the warning signals. And so if it's the healthy one, you want to focus on that, because that's going to increase your resilience. Like an insurance policy, it literally increases your resilience so that you're stronger for the upcoming inevitable struggles of life. If it is a toxic one, you also want to focus on that. You do not want to suppress it. Otherwise, it's going to be a constant volcano exploding in your life. You see, what happens is that energy is never lost. Energy is always transferred. And if you bring something up and you pay attention to it and it goes back down, you've added a lot of energy, you've grown it. Whatever you're thinking about most is growing. And if you don't change it, it goes back stronger. So this one, we just want to grow it and make it stronger. But this one, you want to make it weaker. You want to remove the energy from this and rebuild it into something like this. And now we're going to do an exercise to practice training ourselves to listen to the warning signals. Throughout this exercise, you're going to use your multiple perspective advantage that you learned about in the previous lesson. So you're observing your warning signals. You're standing back on the surfboard, observing your warning signals. Okay, so what I need you to do for this lesson as well, this exercise, is go back to the thought that you diagrammed in lesson 2 and 3, and you're going to add to that. So the first thing that you're going to add to the top of your diagram is, what are the emotional warning signals coming out of this tree? So just draw a little line coming out of the top of the drawing, and then I want you to write on there emotional warning signals. And then coming out of that line, you're going to write what the emotions are. Whatever the emotions are that are related to what you've already diagrammed from lesson 2 and 3. Then now you're going to add another line next to that, coming out of the central part, and that's going to be called behavioral warning signals. And now you're going to, out of that little heading, with behavioral warning signals, you're going to write what the behaviors are. Just list them. And by the way, you're not going to solve all of this in one day. You do this a bit today, you add more tomorrow, you add more. Over time, you're going to build up a deeper picture of the warning signals. And then you're going to draw a third line, and that line's going to have physical warning signals. And then you're going to have your physical warning signals coming out of the little, whatever the physical warning signals are, like gut ache or heart palpitations, whatever it is. And then there's a fourth line, and that'll be perspective warning signals. Put that little heading on the line, and then coming out of that little heading, you're going to list your perspectives, the perspective warning signals, like life sucks, I can't do this. And now for the rest of the week, what you'll do is keep each day about 5 minutes a day, add to your diagram by looking at the 4 different warning signals and seeing what else you can add, and see if it stimulates anything else to add onto that diagram. Be creative, let it flow, just spend about 5 minutes a day. And then I'll see you back for lesson 5, where I'll tell you a bit more about taking control of your mental health with a different scientific narrative.